Okay, let me start sharing. Okay. Okay, let's jump back to this. And now I have to kind of start. Oh, where are my rockets? Here we go. Okay. And here we have to do now view. Okay, you will just have to live now through the presenter view. This is so that I can read my stories in a second. Okay, so we have already kind of started talking a little bit about how to convey actually context-rich insights from problems or scenarios that gives us additional contextual information. Pardon me. So, for example, how you felt about it, or how you discovered as well, how, for example, a problem became apparent, or how to correspond to this. And now we want to kind of go the next step and look at the power of storytelling. So where context is everything. So yeah, your story time, just to prepare you, the story that you get is a COVID case. And oh, but I haven't updated the image, but the numbers are correct. But let's have a quick look how storytelling actually works. So this is kind of looking back at project interferences. How much is too much? So, and here the questions are kind of, how do we control projects? Why do we do it? And how can we appropriately interfere the story that starts 1907? So this is kind of two examples. So one is it's basically space travel, if you want, yeah, and the other one is long bridges, as they hadn't been built before to that extent. And let's have a look at the particular stories behind them. So the first one is the Quebec Bridge collapse in August, or 29th of August, 1907. So here, the first story is a federal government project, was incorporated by Act of Parliament in 1887, revived in 1891, and again in 1897, with an extension of time in 1900. In 1903, the bond issue was increased to 6 million, and an Act of Parliament was necessary to guarantee the bonds by the public purse. The company's chief engineer, Peter Slapaska, had never worked on a cantilever bridge structure longer than 300 feet. The design was for a 1,801 feet span, and the government chief engineer was disposed for his opposition to the calculations that were submitted by the contractors. Thereafter, a consulting engineer, Theodore Cooper, was in charge of the works. By 1904, parliamentary calculations made early in the planning stages were never properly checked. When the design was finalized and the actual weight of the bridge was far in excess of its carrying capacity. Nearing completion, the site engineer team noticed increasing distortions of key structural members already in place. Cooper initially thought the problems were minor, but by August 27, it had become clear that this was wrong, and agreed on August 29 that the issue was serious, and promptly telegraphed to the Phoenix Bridge Company, add no more load to the bridge till after due consideration of facts. However, the message had not been passed on, and near quitting time that same afternoon, after 4 years of construction, the south arm and the part of the central section of the bridge collapsed into the St. Lawrence River in just 15 seconds. Of the 86 workers on the bridge that day, 75 were killed and the rest were injured, making it the world's worst bridge construction disaster. Some were killed from the 40-story free fall into the rivers. Others were crushed dragged underwater, or pinned by the 15,000 tons of steel wreckage and drowned as the tide came in that night. A royal commission of inquiry found the two lead engineers were responsible for the disaster. Failed design of the courts, Sasklapa, a designed engineer, Phoenix Bridge Company, and examination approval of the design, Cooper, consulting engineer, Quebec Bridge Railway Company. Errors in judgment by the two engineers, failure to appoint an experienced bridge engineer resulting in the loss and inefficient supervision of all parts of the work. Okay, so that was our first story. Oh, and I have some questions. Robert, are you on presenter view? Yes. He knows. Oh, okay. Okay, so that was our first story. Now, despite my reading, what did you make of this? Okay, I stop sharing.
Human errors?
Yeah. On what account?
Pressure of deadlines? Or
Yeah, sorry, when I said on what account, so where did the errors come from? So I guess we have some narrative there, but what is the greater context of those issues? Not knowledge-wise.
they didn't take the dimensions correctly. So they didn't verify the dimensions before installing the bridge. I mean, the design phase was totally collapsed with the inaccurate.
So we would probably say it's a specialist knowledge, right? So the subject knowledge was kind of blamed here. They should have known better. Yeah, okay, maybe, so, okay, so what's important for me here, sorry, I didn't want to dwell straight away down, but maybe impressions about this story. What else do you get from the context? Okay, if we have to categorize what we are getting here in terms of knowledge, how could we characterize this in this story? So the idea is, right, we would get now the story and it would set us up for the next project. So what would we kind of need to pay attention to here for another bridge project?
Maybe the design elements can be carried forward, like how much tolerances should be given. Safety and testing must also be taken into consideration so it won't happen again.
Yeah, Arju, this is the right engineering answer. But so you're right. So from the specialization point, right? We need design engineer that properly checks, right, structural design and actually yeah, what the bridge can carry, yeah. And then when it comes to installation, what was the other issue? Okay, let's backpedal a little bit. So from a project overall point, what is a main issue here? What led to the failure? Okay, I name a few. Lack of cooperation, lack of knowledge, um, lack of knowledge sharing, people not turning up, or what was it?
I guess the team in the story, the team noticed there was something wrong, but no action was taken, and they went ahead and continued the construction. So the warning signals were there, but they were ignored.
Yeah. So, but so what were the explicit warning signals? Did you remember that, or did? So Lynn, I guess my question is, from an organization point, would we have been able as a project manager to figure this out, or was that invisible?
Probably continuous monitoring would have been the solution, or the team members should have escalated the issue to top management.
Or else lack of skilled labor at that point of time.
Sorry, Archu, I didn't get that. What was it? Lack of?
Skilled workforce or the engineers weren't available at that point of time. So correct resources weren't mobilized for the project. Even the earlier engineer who was there wasn't that skilled.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's start at the front. Yeah, so actually you're spot on. Yeah, so we had an engineer that never built a big structure as such. Yeah, so and we don't actually know if that was recognized at the project level. That seems to be more a hindsight element. Yeah, but then you're right. Yeah, so in a way, by monitoring or assessing actually the skills of the team, yeah, to address Archu's point with a skill shortage, this could have been a way of getting that part right. But then the other problem is there were even information provided, right, that kind of didn't get handed on. And that is again one of those elements where it's Ben Flumerk would again say romantically a strategic misrepresentation, hoping they get away with it. Yeah, but that is actually something else. So this is actually, I think we would actually judge this in Australia as manslaughter, yeah, because that there was a responsibility loss. Yeah.
I think so. In order to prevent this kind of issues, at the moment we have revision numbers in drawings. So if there is any revision on site, we need to report back to the design team and make changes in the actual layout. So that way everybody knows there is a change, and based on that new changes, additional works will be carried forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this. So if we probably think a little bit longer about it, you're quite right. Archer has already gone down the track. Yeah, okay, how could we improve that? So version control of knowledge objects. Yeah, so particularly if there are boundary objects between kind of design team and construction team. Yeah, and probably as well some form of approval. So ideally, the construction team would sign up to the design that they can actually do this, right? So there are some kind of mechanisms that we could put in place, which link back to what Lynn said. Now, from a narrative point, how was that story for you? Let's think very irrational. How did you feel about this personally? Like when you look at your emotions, was this your normal reporting in a technical report, or how was that story narrated? So what is the feeling that you get from this story?
There
Is that just a yeah? Sorry.
Like there is human loss and economic loss as well.
Yeah,
there were huge
but you
expectations.
nearly summarized this now more clinical. So, sorry, I shouldn't laugh about that. So this was, I like that you put it on a more kind of scientific and objective perspective. But what did that do? So is that a normal project failure, or is that not so good project failure, or is that how would you kind of classify that?
Like a classic case study.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, maybe I'm really wrong here. I would have kind of said that, okay, this is like a story of a project not just gone bad, it has gone ugly. Yeah. So do you know from the, what is it? The Western movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or something like that? Yeah, so this is like a story, right, that shows how horrendous it can be if mistakes kind of overlap, and how it can go. Okay, maybe I pedal back. Lynn, you said this is like the typical case study. This tells me something how academics write case studies. But so what does it do? Is it a good story?
I guess it's good in the sense that it highlights the importance of say being importance of effective communication in the project, and the danger of having economic pressure and time pressure in the project.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so yes, you are correct with everything. So this is the content conveyed, and so in that case, what the issues are. But as a tool, like telling this story as a knowledge device, how does that impact, on your learning? So is this just as Archie said, like, okay, we have to kind of clean this up to make it a better report, to have more factual and narrate this, or what is the format of the storytelling here?
Oh, I guess that storytelling makes it easier for us to remember the lesson. Like we could remember how this was a severe or like a disaster, and we could relate back to the I guess the literature or the theory with the story.
Yeah. So I mean, Lynn, yes, this is
With the emotional
answer that makes me very happy. Yeah, that you said like, okay, how it relates to theory. But you had kind of the answer that I was fishing for actually before. So you're spot on. So it's a lot more impacting the story, right? And it's you use the right terminology, right? This disaster. It's not just a project failure. It's a disaster, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's an emotional dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just logic. Like I can't remember the 3 Greek words, but it's ethos, logos, and pathos. So it's about, it touches you on the emotional level as well as in terms of like the logic of the story.
Yeah. So you're right. So we're going actually into the pathos, of showing the consequences if you don't do it right. Yeah. So sadly, this case worked well. Actually, both cases here were kind of with elements of maybe tragedy and fear. Yeah. But at the same time, I guess we are encouraged to look at this and keep an eye on the right knowledge here. Yeah. But I'm already deconstructing that, so I should probably not do that too much. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. So. It's triggered emotion with logic, so we can use still the analytical tools, but because we get it in a narrative, in a story, we actually understand more the context. Now, this can be slightly misleading, right? So the context here is constructed. So this is probably not the full story, but still for learning, this is a very powerful format. Yeah.
Is it similar to how you hear stories from the previous project manager versus you read about the report? Or you read the report of the previous project?
Yeah, so I haven't seen yet lessons learned written up like that, but so this is normally more so in companies where you are encouraged to write case studies up, this may be a format how they're written up. Actually, I did that in the UK, in the Chamber of Commerce. I kind of wrote vignettes and case studies up from case studies that we researched of how in project-based organizations, the companies or project managers did skills development. And that was a process not well understood. And we did this as well with kind of case vignettes where we kind of artificially summarized the scenario, and then we kind of explained the narrative, how the company tried to engage, what worked, what didn't, which partners were involved, and what that actually meant for the success of the project. And then we had as well kind of a case library for other companies to kind of have a look in how they can, based on their scenario, engage with this. And that is quite powerful. Yeah, but it takes a lot of time. So, but if you can instill this in your project teams or in your project office, that project managers write it up like that, then you're on a, so you can use it for multiple ways, right? So as you saw in Nada, this can be used to advertise even to external companies. How great you are at project management, right? It's free marketing, but internally, if you kind of construct it that way, you can use it as well for lessons learned, have a project typology, and use it as a broker service to kind of knowledge and people. Yeah, so for example, in construction, the big property developers normally link this to cases of how they build a building, and then you have a case representative. So you have somebody that can talk about the practice, how the building was built and how it's now operated. And that person normally has then as well the information to who was the construction manager, who was the project manager, who was the architect, and so on. So if you have questions, that can link you actually to the previous project. Yeah. Which means if you start a new project, right, you can initiate kind of the contact with them and have a catch up and ask how they did this, and maybe show them what you are planning if this is a support function. Yeah. Okay. I do one quick other example. Oh, and just to warn you, I go again in presentation once my dashboard disappears. Okay. Okay, one more example. So yeah, the ritual of the calling of an engineer, and it's not Lord of the Rings, although yeah, it looks similar. Yes. So this is yeah, so the result of the kind of bridge collapse, yeah, was after the second tragedy and 9 years later, when another bridge attempted to span the St. Lawrence River, collapsing and killing 30 men, the Engineering Institute of Canada called for engineers to be licensed and designs for certain public projects to be approved by licensed engineers. The need to impress on engineers the social responsibility of their profession resulted in 1925 with the formation of Corporation of the Seven Wardens, an organization that still oversees the administration of solemn expression of intentions through the presentation of an iron ring to graduate engineers in a closed ceremony called the ritual of calling of an engineer. Yeah. So that is kind of the beautiful ring you get. Yeah. English novelist and poet Rudyard Kipling was invited to write The Obligation of the Engineer, as he had paid respect to the engineer in his poem, written in the same year as the Quebec Bridge collapses, The Sons of Martha. The iron ring is worn by many Canadian trained engineers on the little finger, pinky, small one, of the working dominant hand. So the facet acts as a sharp reminder of one's obligation while engineer works, because it could drag onto the writing surface while the engineer is drawing or writing. This is kind of the kind of plea. I, the engineer, in the presence of these, my betters and my equals and my calling, but myself upon my honor and cold iron that to be best of my knowledge and power, I will not henceforward suffer or pass or be privy to passing of bad workmanship and faulty materials in aught or concerns my works before mankind as an engineer, or in my dealing with my soul before my maker. My time I will not refuse, my thought. So it goes on. It's quite a long one. So it's a pledge, right? And this is kind of still an element that is celebrated now more symbolically. Okay, so why is that important? That a profession was now kind of sworn in and kind of elevated to a profession where you must be qualified? What do you think?
Like in case of construction, if he's an engineer, he'll be at site. There will be no one to see his work, like how is he doing and how is he following up things. Like, so you must be your own master, and you need to have your own ethics to follow certain guidelines. That is what the story is meant. Like, you need to follow.
But do you have that too, Archu? That where you graduated, you get sworn in with a ring that you have to wear on the pinky?
No, when I graduated, no, I didn't get one.
Wait a minute. Just you didn't get one, but everybody else did? Or?
I mean, we don't have that kind of system in India. I don't think so. Yeah.
But India has as well a profession, right? You are as well chartered.
Yeah. Like there is a society for engineers. So when I was working in Kuwait, I need to take a membership from Kuwait Society of Engineers. Only then I will be permitted to work at site as an engineer.
Yeah, and this has normally as well to do with liability, right? And a lot of the chartered bodies insure you as well. So if you kind of stick to the kind of code of conduct of engineers and something goes wrong, then you're actually fully covered.
Liable. Yeah. That's true.
Wait, I got a graduation ring, Rob. Do you want to see it?
So graduation ring is one, but was that to the profession?
No, it wasn't actually to the profession. No, but as Ashu said, we get like to be registered in a semi-like union, so that we can practice our so that we can practice basically.
So it's not just practice, right? You are with this membership, you are kind of committing yourself as well to work by those principles and kind of hold your knowledge area or profession up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the question is here, do we have the same for project management?
Well, we actually don't have to be registered to practice, right? I don't think so.
Okay, I take comments. So you say no. I take other comments. Who thinks yes? Who thinks maybe? Or it depends?
I think you could be registered with some. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any good information about it.
It depends from organization to organization. Like for construction, if you have experience of a project manager, you will be recruited. But now current situation, you need to be either like certified by AIPM or PMP, so it adds value to your profile.
Yeah. Is that in Australia? I don't think they have it through yet. I think it's in the making. But yeah, so actually you're probably right. I think New South Wales is a little bit faster than Victoria. So in I think not coming year, but the year after, you are supposed to be a member, and if you are lead project manager or project director, you should be a practitioner or certified or chartered. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the other day I was going through this PR processing for a project manager. So you need to be certified by one of the Australian organizations to be actually a project manager in that space.
Already, or are they just recruiting that way? So okay, that may be. So this is a good point, Archu. Maybe they're already recruiting for that because they know this law is coming. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. Yeah. But I think at the moment you are still fine to not be certified or not even have a title.
How could we be certified in the future? What should we do?
Yeah, I should probably not answer this to Sunil. So the idea is that you kind of pledge to comply with a professional body of knowledge, but as well kind of do the continuous development that is, or the lifelong learning that is expected from engineers, medical professions. So there are quite a few professions actually now. I should add, this is really an invention from kind of late 19th century, but some have very practical reasons, others have a little bit darker reasons. So for example, quantity surveyors had a lot to do with people kind of drawing borders on globes. That's maybe a little bit cynical background, but engineering had this kind of pledge to better buildings, building safety, similar like architecture. And as well, if you look into health sectors, there are similar kind of topics behind that.
We kind of touched on this in Siobhan's unit last year, where we talked about the oaths of some of the professions. So you have, like in the medical field, you have the Hippocratic Oath. But for project managers, quite difficult because project managers come from different areas. It's like an interdisciplinary profession, I guess, and it's really hard to define the standards in terms of like ethical standards for project managers. And I did kind of came across this article in the business ethics unit, and there was these stats about how engineers act more ethically when they are in the role as engineers compared to when they are project managers. So I found it quite interesting in that sense.
Yeah. So just to preempt this, yeah, you're spot on. So in the UK, just when I left in 2017, they had as well the new chartered profession. They didn't call it a charter of project management. They called it charter of project profession. So they recognized that the management element is actually problematic. And this has been I don't know if, I'm not sure that it's a good thing to admit to this, but in the UK, I've been a member since 2012 of professional bodies that have written as well the professional bodies. And this is a problem. The bodies of knowledge in those professions are always politically agreed constructs. So you have there as well players that for example, good governance was already 2006 actually a main theme, but it never made it in because there were big corporate players that didn't want to have project governance as a core role of the project manager that may actually oblige them. You know, if in a contract is written, I apply the APM standard and you should do the roles according to this. Yeah, that would then mean you have to do governance and report on this, and as well kind of flag things up when they're not done right. So and this, yeah, so that is maybe the notion. In a quick answer though, I think here in Australia we are pushing as well quite hard for this. So we probably will get as well similar to the UK a charter here soon. And there's a big question. So Lynn, you mentioned the ethics. So what are actually the ethics of a project manager? Are we there for the client to do a good project, or are we there to do beautiful buildings? Are we there to do a good service or something like that?
Yeah, probably it has. And sorry for the during noise in the upstairs. It has to be tied to the field of. So, for example, a project manager in the medical field would have to follow certain rules, and one in the engineering field would have to follow certain rules. And yeah, it'd be hard to determine what will be specific just to project managers or project professionals, I guess.
Yeah, so you inherit their industry cultures, right? And this is exactly the chestnut. So in some, there would be reporting for products and services. In others, there's nothing. Yeah, so it's really then a question what the standard brings into the industry. And that will be, well, this is already an issue, but in a way, there's certainly not yet the level where we could say, okay, this is a decent standard for all industries, for all project professionals. And yeah, in the UK, they're literally experimenting with this. Now in Australia, we are still at the point where project management is not very maturely applied, which means as well that a lot of what we are covering here in the masters is only applied partially, or if you go really in very mature project management companies that are like some of our partners, okay, this is where you really kind of engage with that level. But you have probably noticed that this is still quite inconsistent depending on the job that you're going in. Yeah, so it's an interesting space. And yeah, so particularly with the ethical behavior of the engineers, I would be quite interested to see how that actually goes, because as a project profession, the logic in the UK changed from delivering a project for your client versus being responsible to society. And that is where exactly the ethical dilemma sits. So if you have a good client, then you can be ethical and you do the right thing. But if you have a bad client, so not to say that clients are per se good or bad, but basically the incentive of the spin of the project comes in. And you can see that already, I guess, if you're looking at topics like sustainability. This is why we talk about projects, green by definition, green delivering green outcomes, projects being green by itself or by what they're trying to achieve. So, and we distinguish this because they're very different things, and you would have similar elements with projects, of course. Okay, so good kind of diversion. So the reason why stories are powerful, right? So they can make a strong case as well to institutionalize something in your project. So you could, for example, institutionalize it as well in your project and say like, okay, we are only project managers that are certified or that have education in project management, and then you could have as well a plea to doing great project management. Great project management for learning, for example. Okay. Let's have another, okay, I do another quick story and then we jump into your activity. So that was a ring and still the bridge. Now this is the second story, and that is a space shuttle Challenger disaster, and that was 1986. And here, this is Roger Boyce-Joy. He was a lead engineer of I can't speak English. Anyway, Morton Sayokol, another contractor that helped develop the Challenger solid rocket booster. He warned of a possible O-ring failure that could lead to a destruction of the shuttle based on laboratory tests, which confirmed they would not flex enough to sear at low temperature. So this is again very engineering focused example, but then higher level, when he learned of the low outside temperature for the launch, Roger, as a launch committee member, tried to veto the required unanimous decision to proceed, but was removed from the room. So they threw him out. Roger was appointed to the investigation team that confirmed the O-ring failure and discovered that the astronauts were likely still alive when they hit the water in excess of 200 miles an hour. He testified in the presidential commission investigating the circumstances surrounding the explosion. He told the truth under oath, contrary to orders from his management, to the orders of his management. The rest is history. Report of the Presidential Commission on the Space Shuttle Challenger accident, the impact of misinformation, recommendation 5, improved communications. The commission found that Marshall Space Flight Center project managers, because of a tendency at Marshall to manage in isolation, failed to provide full and timely information bearing on the safety of Flight 51L to other vital elements of shuttle program management. Neither should take energetic steps to eliminate this tendency at Marshall Space Flight Center, whether by changes of personnel, organization, indoctrination, or all three. A policy should be developed which governs the imposition and removal of shuttle launch constraints. Flight readiness reviews and mission management team meetings should be recorded. The flight crew commander or designated representative should attend the flight readiness review, participate in acceptance of the vehicle for flight, and certify that the crew is properly prepared for the flight. Okay, what do you make of this story? Stop sharing again.
So earlier, the engineer who designed this, or the manager who designed these rings, he said it's a no or not to proceed, but still the pressure of deadlines from the government made them to proceed with the project, or the
Arthur, I think this was a nice interpretation, and I think the other people that may watch this later, yes, they will be happy about your response here. But I think that this was a lot harsher in the case here. I think they said that management removed him from the the committee.
Yeah.
So this is not miscommunication. This is throwing him out to have a clear vote. Yeah, but go on. Sorry, Anshu. Yeah.
So even after saying that not to proceed, they still went ahead with the launch. That's what they should never ignore warnings of any stakeholder. They should take into consideration, even, I mean, there should be enough time for testing, and like there should be procedures and protocols that can be learned from this kind of incidents, because this was a big economic disaster at that point of time for USA.
not just for USA, but
Yeah.
as well kind of space travel in general, right? There
Yeah.
were major fears and worries around this. But you're right, Archer. Yeah, that was a hit in the stomach in terms for space travel engineering. Now, this is a big problem, right? When kind of technical expertise or functionality and threat even of death is kind of ignored in decision making just to hit deadlines, right? So those are very extreme scenarios here. But again, so as a case scenario, where do you place this? So, by the way, don't wait for horrendous case scenarios like this to happen on your projects before you act and kind of systematically try to engage with knowledge management or you know, to basically bridge knowledge for learning and knowledge sharing. But so where would you place this? Is this similar to the bridge collapse?
Yeah, actually, it's more than the bridge collapse. Like it was like very fatal.
Yeah, but it's fewer deaths, right? Fewer people died.
Yeah, in economic terms, yes, I would rate it very high. Like even though human loss was relatively less, but yeah, there was huge losses.
Yeah, good. So and oh, I would have spun this different, but actually I'm with you. So in a way, in the first project, the failure was as well tragic, but there was really the people didn't know better. Yeah, so there were design mistakes that were kind of clear, and they kind of missed, and this could be still interpreted as missed rather than really acted against kind of direction or you know, flagging of issues. But in this case, they really removed kind of actively the person informing and being in the role to provide that knowledge, right? So that is probably a lot worse and makes it such a big drama. But yeah, so this was actually the initiation project for NASA to start their knowledge management as they do it today. I don't know if you have checked this out from the case study. That is the Apple webpage. So what we worked on day one through as an example, how a comprehensive knowledge management strategy and kind of database could look like, and that kind of to the outcomes. Yeah, so now comes our small exercise and the break. So I want you, we have kind of 30 minutes because you have to take your 10 minutes break as well. So let me show you quickly. I want you now to design with your team. Can you see this? Actually, let's do this. Yeah, super. So I want you with your team to do oh, I'm jumping here. Why is that? Okay, so you want to kind of come up with a story to solve the global COVID crisis. And here are the raw facts, right? We have kind of the data. You can look live data up, of course, not just at the John Hopkinson University, but as well others. So you have not 45 minutes, you have 30 minutes plus 10 minutes break to come up with how you will use your project management skills to manage the opening of international borders. Are you with me? Yeah. So that is what you have to prepare. You want to make a case for it, and you want to tell us the story of how this is going to happen and how the changes, yeah, from this horrendous scenario will actually inform how we can open up for international travel again. Yeah. Now, after the 40 or 30 minutes and 10 minutes break, you present to us a 5 minutes or rich picture. Yeah, you use visuals to tell your story. Yeah, but you want to tell us in 5 minutes what this new opening, opened up Australia would look like. Okay, questions?
Robert, are we focusing on the project management skills? Are we focusing on like how, or like the story, or?
No. This is really, you guys are the project managers. You're making the story now for opening up international travel and how you would do this. So what would a new normal look like with international borders and international travel open? So 2 parts. There's a kind of story up front. Yeah. Shall I go back? Okay, here you go. So currently we are in a pandemic, right? And here the question is how you will use your project management skills to manage. Oh, okay, maybe drop, I see now where your confusion comes from. So drop the skills and just say how you will manage the opening of the international borders as a project, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. But does that make sense? So think of the storytelling and the stories that we just had, and feel free to use rich pictures. So you want to kind of present it in 5 minutes. Yeah. Other questions or comments? By the way, the numbers are wrong. So you can see this is the old map. I haven't changed this. It's now sadly a lot more. Yeah. Archu?
Robert, like, should we only focus like Australia opening to the rest of the world, or like any part of the world?
Yeah, so no, it's actually worse. Initially, I had here just in mind Victoria. So I follow a little bit no, I shouldn't make jokes about this. But yeah, so I was just thinking locally here, Victoria. Yeah. Okay, is that good? Okay, I stop sharing and put you into groups.